to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast, and joined by Gareth A. Davies. Of course, this ongoing situation with Conor Benn is changing by the day, and we'll come on to Conor and your latest thoughts on that situation in a bit. But first, let's start off with a video that everyone was talking about last night with Tyson Fury and True Geordie.
Tosser, you little toss pot. And I won't be doing any more interviews with you little toss pot bearded.
No worries, mate. Thanks very much.
Kiss my balls, you little wank. You little shit house.
Have you worked out how to close this phone? Are you all right? Hit the button at the bottom.
Get your initial thoughts on that, please, Gareth.
It was an unusual interview in the way that True Geordie went about it, I think. Obviously, they'd decided to spend time together. True Geordie has a massive following, of course. Fascinating character. But I wondered whether the order in which he'd done the interview and how he's pressing him so hard on the Chisora fight, but quite negative about it, that you can be negative about it. A lot of people are. I think Frank Warren told me on Saturday night, came on TalkSport, I think they've sold 58,000 tickets already. They'll sell out. It's the Tyson Fury show. There is validity to questioning the veracity of a trilogy fight between them, because Tyson's won so convincingly, particularly the second time. I was there that night when he switched southpaw and hit him with loads of left uppercuts and made Derek quit on his stool. But I think there was an element of wind-up in that. I don't know if they're friends. I don't know if it was parody going on. But I don't know if there was an element of wind-up from True Geordie. And when he got rid of Tyson, he said he was glad he'd recorded that on video, because he could tell that having been slagged a little bit, slanged off by Tyson, that it would probably do numbers. I think it's done massive numbers, hasn't it? As it does. Geordie's True Geordie's but he's a fight fan as well, isn't he? He's got a lot of fight fans. He's very involved with the YouTuber and white collar stuff, isn't he? But I think Tyson lost his rag with him a little bit towards the end. Got a bit frustrated with him. He's got a lot going on. He's got that Netflix series going on. He's building towards Chisora. He's in camp day in, day out. You can see in the leanness of his face at the moment that he's working hard. I don't know, what other takes did you have on it, if you're allowed to answer?
So, as you said, people are negative about the Chisora fight, the trilogy, and therefore definitely those questions about Chisora and why Chisora's been given the shot have to be asked, of course. But I just thought the order of the interview was a bit strange. The opening question was about KSI. The second question was about Conor Benn. And I don't know, I thought you'd probably open up with Chisora, make a couple of comments about why it's Chisora, then further press him like he did, and then come on to other topics. But I think the moment he asked about KSI and Conor Benn right at the start, which has really nothing to do with Tyson Fury, and he's in camp, as you said, that kind of got him going at the start. So I thought it was a bit strange to open up the interview like that.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is with True Geordie, he's I'm not a huge follower of his, but I do know that he's quite a prevalent figure on YouTube. He's got a massive following. He knows how to press the right buttons, and I think he was doing that with Tyson to get a reaction. There was no reaction to Conor Benn. I'll give you mine on the latest. I've got a series of questions that I think need answering over the next few weeks. I spoke to Matt Lawton of The Times that did that interview with Conor last Friday that appeared. And obviously there's a story in The Sun. There were two stories, weren't there, with Conor? We'll come on to that. But I just think True Geordie was doing what True Geordie does. He's an abrasive character. He's a strong character, and that's why he's followed. And I don't think Tyson Fury goes away from that and is going to start calling him out or anything. I can't remember. Is True Geordie fighting as well or not?
No, I don't believe he.
No,
True
he's an
Geordie fight.
MC for some of the events, isn't he? But
He's
he's a
done
big
the
fella.
last his own show, the KSI one. He did.
Yeah. You know, like Simon Jordan, like others, they're dipping into boxing. They're becoming, you know, voices on fight sports. Good luck to them, I say. You know, but you can see Tyson's in camp and he's getting ready for Derek. Doesn't want a banana skin ahead of that potential Alexander Usyk fight next year if that happens. I hope it does. So we'll see.
Aside from, as I said, the order of the interview, where he started about KSI, then Conor Benn, as I said, the Chisora questions were relevant and should be asked. So let's discuss that. Frank Warren's given his reasons as to why it's Derek Chisora. Tyson's now done the same thing. The main one, I think, was Joe Joyce was the one because he's a BT Frank Warren fighter. He's coming off a great win. Fury v Joyce would be a great fight. But Joe Joyce has declared himself now. He said that on camera at Wembley Arena on Saturday that he wasn't willing to fight on December 3rd. And they are planning that fight with Joyce and Fury for the summer next year at a stadium. So, in your opinion, is Derek Chisora the most viable option if you take Joe Joyce out of it?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Joe Joyce has removed himself. I mean, you know, he's promoted by the same guy. I mean, at some point, if Tyson, as he said, he's had a kind of shift in thoughts that he's going to stay around in boxing, realizing that perhaps it is good for him to be around in boxing, perhaps for the next 2 or 3 years. Wants to be active and fight twice a year. He will meet Joe Joyce at some point. He'll meet Daniel Dubois. That'll probably be one of the last fights he does. He'd probably meet Deontay Wilder again and Usyk. Hopefully Anthony Joshua at some point, although he's ruled it out, and he ruled it out the other day. I think he'll meet all of these guys.
I don't agree with Joshua. I think that's gone. But
I don't know about that. Once it resurfaces again and all the chess pieces fit together, it would not surprise me at all, Umar, to see the fight. There's too much money in it, and it also depends on how they both go in the next couple of fights. If they're both victorious, if Anthony Joshua's victorious with a couple of knockouts and is resurgent, you know, he's 2 and 3 at the moment in his last 5, so he needs a couple of wins. So it will all change. The landscape could change very quickly, especially when you've got an £80 million fight at your disposal, which it would be between those two minimum, really, because it will still draw numbers, especially, as I say, if Tyson wins his next 2 against Derek and Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua could still become a mandatory to one of those belts. So yeah. I can't see, Tyson shouldn't dump a belt in the bin not to fight Anthony Joshua. It's a fight we want to see in this generation. I wouldn't back Tyson on not fighting him ever. I think it's nonsense.
It's just the way Tyson's talking now, because he's offered him that shot and it didn't get over the line. He's had enough. It's clear from his comments about Joshua and Eddie, and he said this in an interview with True Geordie when it was aired last night, that he's done with that. He doesn't want to even entertain talking about them.
That's him now. It'll change.
Okay. So, but back to the point, Gareth. Can't be Joe Joyce, okay? The Joshua offer never, as I said, materialised. So it can't be Joyce, it can't be Joshua. Alexander Usyk was obviously the main target. He pulled himself out the running for this year, Alexander Usyk, because he wanted to spend some time with his family, obviously, with everything that's gone on in Ukraine, etc. And he was coming off a fight with Anthony Joshua anyways. Yeah. And that's going to happen early next year. So it can't be Usyk, it can't be Joshua, it can't be Joyce. Wilder just fought, and he's fought Wilder 3 times anyways, Fury. So looking around the landscape, Dillian White, he just fought in April. Who would you have gone for bar Chisora?
Well, Andy Ruiz is tied up with Deontay Wilder. I've got the list here. Frank Sanchez wouldn't sell. Arslanbek Mukhmadov would not sell at all. Robert Helenius has just been beaten. Anthony Joshua didn't want to fight him. He's beaten Dillian White, going down the rankings here of the WBC. Otto Wallin, he's fought already. Martin Bakole was a possibility. Yeah. Jan Kosabutski, again, wouldn't have sold. Joseph Parker, he won't fight him yet. They're 2 closest friends. Luis Ortiz, worse than Chisora. Michael Hunter, yeah, potentially. Derek Chisora, 14. Flip Hogovich, 15. The reason why they've gone for Derek Chisora, he's a big figure in British boxing. He's a cult figure. He helps sell the fight. He'll create some shenanigans in the build-up. You know, Frank, you gagged me. on the press day at Tottenham, and he knows how to sell a fight. And we know that these two guys have been around, so it's just that it just sells better than anyone else. It's not the perfect fight, as I've written myself in my Telegraph columns. It's not the Christmas present we wanted. The lights will be on. We'll all be in our fur coats at Tottenham, swigging Glühwein, and we'll be there with Talk Sport, who've got the broadcast, by the way. So I'll be there with my colleagues from the Talk Sport team. Will be doing that live. Just hope it's not too chilly, and I hope, my friend, it ain't fucking snowing.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a disaster. So the three names that I picked up on really there were Michael Hunter, Martin Bakole, and Filip Hrgović. Now, me and you and people watching this in boxing, right, recognize those names. And they would arguably be better than the Derek Chisora trilogy, especially.
I don't agree. I don't think they're even that much better.
Okay, but the point is, maybe we've seen Fury and Chisora twice. So from that point of view, okay, something new. Filip Hrgović, Martin Bakole, and Michael Hunter. Okay, and they're more in their primes rather than Derek Chisora. Okay, so from that point of view, I get that. But you got to realise those 58,000 people who have bought tickets, the casual fans that will be tuning in, who Fury now has gripped, that won't mean anything more. In fact, the Chisora fight probably resonates more than a Hrgović, a Bakole, and a Hunter.
It just works. It just fits together in the jigsaw as a promotion. I don't think either of those three would have fared any better against him. I don't think it'll do massive numbers on the pay-per-view, in my view, but it will be a grand occasion. And it's another opportunity, to see the Gypsy King. And it's a treading water fight is what I'd call it. It's a fun fight, treading water fight, but with one caveat. And that is, weird things happen in heavyweight boxing. Weird things happen in boxing anyway. So Fury won't be underestimating this version of Derek Chisora. Yes, he's weather-worn. He's a different fighter. As Fury said, I think on the broadcast with Geordie, a True Geordie, from the bits that I saw, they're both different fighters now, and it'll be a different kind of fight. And there will be more risks taken by Fury. But I think Derek will find it hard to get near him. And when he is near him, he's going to have to really let his hands go. You have to put his head on Fury's chest and let his hands go. But you know what Fury's like. He'll be fencing him around the corner, turning him around. I don't expect this fight to go longer than 6 or 7 or 8 rounds.
Okay. Just lastly on this, I think also a big point that people are missing. If this was Fury saying, this could be my last fight, I'm going to fight Derek Chisora and then bye, then...
Oh, this couldn't have been his last fight.
No, but this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. If this was his last fight and he was going to fight Derek Chisora and just say, right, I'm going to do this and just that's it, then the criticism is definitely more justified. But Frank's telling you that in February or March, he's going to fight Alexander Usyk for the undisputed title. It's like people have to just treat this as a tick-over fight, a stay-busy fight. As you said, you can't overlook it, but this is just a stay busy fight.
He's such a big figure now. It's the same problem that Eddie Hearn's got with Anthony Joshua. He's such a big figure that he's crossed over into the mainstream. You don't have 3 Netflix series organized for yourself if you're not a huge name. He's got a huge crossover appeal. Paris, his wife, is on Loose Women and is a celebrity. Not that they act like celebrities. Is a celebrity herself. The Fighting Furies are now a kind of moniker out there. Tommy, his brother, is a big figure in terms of being a YouTuber and an influencer and all those things, and Love Island and all that crossover. So, you've got to take all those kind of things into account. And I think it's very difficult. You don't want to put him on at the O2 Arena or the York Hall. I mean, it'd be 15,000 a ticket at the York Hall if you put him on there, because you'd be touching him. You could literally touch him from the balcony. So it's a problem, but it's a good problem. It's a headache, but it's a headache that any promoter would want with Tyson Fury. I spoke at length with Frank Warren on Saturday night, and actually, you should if people are interested. One of the things that I would listen to this week, obviously apart from your brilliant channel, is our TalkSport Fight Night podcast with myself and Spencer Oliver. we had Frank Warren on for a half an hour on Saturday night, and he let rip on the situation around Conor Benn. Truly let rip. It's very, very interesting listen.
Okay, definitely give that a listen. But yeah, as I said, you got Alexander Usyk, undisputed fight in February or March. First time we're going to have an undisputed champion in this division since Lennox Lewis. So
Listen, I'm going to do a Fury on Geordie in a minute if you don't keep banging on about this. There it is. The fight's there. You know, bum dosser, all of that kind of stuff. Get on with the next question, Umar, please.
Okay, so I'm going to just ask this in one go. The two.
Ask it in one go. Go on, ask it in one go.
I'm going to put both sides right in one question, and then you can give your thoughts on this.
Thank you.
What Eddie and Conor are saying, the two things I've heard mostly from them are contamination and small trace levels. Okay. Now, my response, or if I was defending Conor, would be, if this drug stays in your system for so long, for months, which is what they're saying that scientists have told them.
Yeah, 11 weeks.
Why would you? So there you go. Why would you sign up for VADA testing, knowing this drug is going to be in your system?
Absolutely. I mean, it's difficult. It's a very valid argument. Yeah, you wouldn't, because you'd be stupid to do so, because it's going to show up in your system at some point. You know, so. You know, it's a valid argument from that perspective, but it is in his system, and he needs to prove why it was in his system. He's given up his license. He hasn't been banned or suspended. The misconduct charge has been upheld by the Boxing Board of Control. They kept that very quiet. I spoke to you last week. I was disappointed. Eddie Hearn sent me a voice message, actually, say, look, we didn't know that was the situation, in terms of I'm allowing Conor to let his own information out. You know, I appreciated the message back from Eddie, because I did an interview with you last week, do you remember, saying that I was staggered that Eddie Hearn hadn't told us when we did an off the record sit down with him last Wednesday, I think it was. And I appreciated that message back. I mean, people have this attitude, well, certainly some of the comments that on IFL TV or on social media, that you know, oh, you're hammering Eddie Hearn. But when you see him, you I don't know what the words are. I'm not going to use the words at you, but I'm backpedaling. I don't backpedal with him. I have a relationship with Eddie Hearn, like I do with Frank Warren. I challenged Eddie over many things when I sat down with him. Some of the things don't add up to me. In fact, I've got a series of questions here I'm going to read to you. I'll just do this, right?
Yeah.
I wrote a column in the Telegraph on Saturday. Why did the BBC... why did the British Boxing Board of Control wait so long to make its decision to cancel the fight? Why can't a promoter such as Hearn cancel an event without the board's say so? Last week, Hearn claimed he was powerless to do so contractually, while Eubank was still prepared to fight. Where's the moral compass here, in my view? Why did they even think they could go on with the event after the failed test? Even now, last week, why did Benn surrender his license, claiming that he was not actually fully licensed with the board and that it had elapsed? Who are these doctors and sports scientists who gave advice to Eubank, which persuaded him that he should still fight? We need to hear from laboratory scientists, specialists in the art of detection, and those with a deep and detailed knowledge of how and why substances show up. And this is to your question, and a cross-section of them, of scientists. Benn could have been very unlucky. There's been talk of clomiphene being in chicken's eggs. Sports scientist, please. And also about how and why it gets in there. There's a narrative here emerging, in my view, that adverse findings can just be refuted. Did the Dillian White case, where he was exonerated on the day of the fight with Oscar Rivas, set a precedent? Was Hearn pushing the board with Benn based on that case? Now, with Benn's license surrendered, while the board investigate this misconduct charge, will Benn box elsewhere with another commission in another territory at some point? Hearn discussed all those possibilities, Umar, last week, and it is a possibility. Benn, after all, is neither banned nor suspended. Look, they put the argument forward that it's contamination. He did that interview with The Sun and The Times. His lawyer, Mike Morgan, is going to present this, in my view, to the board and say, look, this is what we believe has happened. Conor is not a drugs cheat. Prove that we're wrong. and I think he'll end up getting a suspension or a ban. I think he'll serve it. I believe it. I reckon it'll be backdated to when he was fully licensed, and then I think we'll see him back in action. It's a horrible situation for him. As I say, Matt Lawton spoke to me on Saturday night on Talk Sport and explained, he went to Ben's house and the baby's running around and Conor was in tears. And it's hard not to like Conor Benn. It's really hard. I mean, I don't mean it's difficult to like him, but I'd never have thought this was going to happen. The jury's out though. People are going to suspect. People are going to say this and that forever. And that's just the situation. It's very unfortunate for him. And he's either cheated or he hasn't. And if he hasn't, we have to, we have to accept that, but somehow or other, clomiphene got in his system, and everybody has explained what happens with clomiphene, that it's sometimes taken after a dose of testosterone or steroids. I'm not suggesting he has done that because I don't know, but it's just a horrible situation. Those 26 hours between Wednesday and Thursday, I think, boxing was morally ravaged at that point. People were aghast. We were aghast that fight wasn't called off straight away, and we were also aghast that fight wasn't called off when the second positive test came up, because you cannot go ahead in a sport like boxing when someone tests. And as Frank Warren explained to me as well, no, you pull the fight. That's what you do. You have a hearing, you have an investigation. I know that medical evidence is about people's what they've got in their bodies, what traces and stuff is private. But in those cases, you need to bring it to the fore and have transparency. I've said it all along, full transparency.
Okay, on that note, Gareth A. Davies, thank you very much for your time, and no doubt we'll speak soon, all right? Thank you.
Okay, back to Timbuktu.
I'm going to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.